when we look at any word, including meditation, then we want to know what ultimately that word means to us. So if we're meditators, ultimately, what every meditator I've ever known is looking at is having that meditative state all day long in all circumstances. So not just in a special circumstance of sitting on a cushion. When there's meditation, there's rest as awareness. In other words, awareness is predominant no matter what is appearing. So we're talking about completely uncontrived medication. Sought through prayer and medication to improve ourselves. So what we're looking for in meditation is this ultimate meditation that will pervade waking, dreaming, and sleeping. That's the ultimate all-out goal of meditation. So if that is what meditation is, then of course most of us would want to arrive at that in the easiest way possible. Isn't that correct? To have that all-pervasive awareness, waking, dreaming, and sleeping, and to do it in an easy, effortless way. Well, throughout all of time, for at least 17,000 years that we know of, this has been the ultimate meditation, imperturbable rest, handed down from generation to generation, like a chain of golden mountains. The lineage that is so pure it has no lines. The meditation that is super complete in itself, because it already is the basis of everything. You see, if we say, well, I can only meditate when I'm sitting on a cushion or I'm sitting in a special place, and that's the only way that I can get familiar with the awareness that is the essence of everything, then that's what we believe. It's just what we believe. But believe me, this meditation that is, I didn't meditate. I didn't meditate in that way you described, but I did meditate by resting imperturbably in all circumstances and conditions. And in that way, it became pervasive in waking, dreaming, and sleeping. I'm not saying don't meditate on a cushion. Do whatever you like. But when you're meditating on the cushion, just allow everything to be as it is. Whatever the thoughts are, whatever the emotions are, whatever the sensations are, they're inseparable from awareness, just like the brilliance of a diamond is inseparable from the diamond. The thoughts, the emotions, the sensations, they're the dynamic energy of awareness. They can't be separated from awareness. So no need to do any kind of one-pointed meditation like follow the breath, think of certain things, visualize the deity, look at a candle flame, whatever it might be. Watch the sensations. Just rest as awareness, and everything will become more and more resolved. It'll become clearer and clearer that this thing that we call non-duality, that everything really is non-dual by nature. If we say certain conditions are necessary and that awareness is dependent on certain conditions, it's going to be very, very difficult to realize that everything is a single non-dual expanse because we've placed conditions on it. We've said awareness is dependent on something. Now, another very important part of this that I, as you know, I state over and over again, and I'm not going to overlook it now either, is that we not only want to have this meditative condition or absorption that's all pervasive, whether waking, dreaming, or sleeping, that's only a state. That's a state of being. However, inseparable from that state is super complete wisdom that is superbly helpful and never thinks about meditation or any dependent circumstance again. So you see, that's the real fruit of meditation, not the state itself. Now, if we think the state itself is the end of the line and we get off the train here, then we're going to be stuck in that state. Pardon?
So the goal of meditation is achieved when it made itself useless.
Ah, I love that. Music to my ears. I'm not saying anything new. You know, throughout time, there have been people who have meditated on cushions and done all kinds of methods and practices. And one man even wrote 200 books about all those methods and practices, suggesting them to others. And these are some of the greatest books ever written about methods and practices. But then in the end, he said, I was wrong. None of that is necessary. Just rest imperturbably. And well, we already are who we are. So how difficult could it be to be that? So you see, even with elementary faculties of discernment and discrimination, we can say, if we already are this, then we already are this. How difficult could it be to be this? Why would we have to go through some kind of ordeal of 20 or 30 decades to figure it out or find it out? And then we could also say to ourselves, just, you know, in the sense of being a good consumer, we could say, well, of all the people who do all these methods and practices, how many do achieve the result? So in this way, we can say, well, you know, today we have lots of information about everything. And this is one of the things we have a lot of information about. So we now know something that wasn't known just maybe even 15 years ago or even 5 years ago. And that is that there is this one practice that has upheld humankind from generation to generation. Rest imperturbably. Rest naturally as awareness for short moments, repeated many times, until it becomes obvious at all times. And in that obviousness will be the evidence of wisdom power of potent benefit. Wisdom power that is completely beyond causation, completely beyond time and space. When we gain familiarity with awareness, then a lot of these belief systems we've had about who we are, they just break down naturally. And to stay aware while dreaming and sleeping is as simple as staying aware while going to sleep. So most of the time, we've just learned that we lie down and that's it, we go to sleep. And once in a while, we might remember something we dream and other times we don't. But we usually feel kind of like we as beings are at the whim of dream and sleep. So we don't have any control over what goes on there. But indeed we do. So when we're falling asleep, just in falling asleep, to rest as awareness and notice how all the thoughts, emotions, and sensations, they resolve in awareness. They resolve in a non-conceptual state. But let's say that all the thoughts, emotions, and experiences are points of view within the all-encompassing pure view of awareness. Then all of a sudden, all the things that are thought about become non-conceptual. But non-conceptuality is just another point of view. It's not a place we're trying to get to. It's not a destination. So at that point, remain aware as that non-conceptual state. That is very, very powerful because it shows definitively that awareness is the root of the non-conceptual state. The non-conceptual state isn't something in and of itself. It's due to awareness, and it's not some kind of destination that we need to hold on to. Remaining aware at that point, maybe the first night, maybe some night down the road, you will remain aware as you drift into sleep. And you will remain aware during the dream state, maybe at first. And you'll be able to actively participate in the dream rather than being at the whim of it. In other words, you can change what goes on in the dream. And then falling into deep sleep, too, it's possible to maintain awareness all night long. Now, some people do this as a practice, so they'll do it for the rest of their lives, remain aware all night long, every night. But what's most important about this practice is that in doing so, you see through your own firsthand experience that awareness is not dependent on dreaming and sleeping. Do you see what I'm saying? You see that you are not at the whim of dreaming and sleeping, which you once thought you were. So you see that you're not dependent on that in a very definitive way. So these three ways in which we describe ourselves as humans, waking, dreaming, and sleeping, that's completely gone beyond. And we see that all those points of view are within the pure view of awareness. Whatever the appearance is, it's inseparable from what you're calling meditation. So sleep is an appearance, and it's equal to every other appearance. All appearances are absolutely equal, and all appearances have as their root awareness. It doesn't matter what it is. There never have been two. That's what non-duality means, that there never have been two. Meditation is to rest as awareness. That's what meditation is. And when we just rest as that natural state, it becomes more and more familiar. And as it becomes more and more familiar, we see that it's inseparable from everything, no matter what it is. It's inseparable from dreams. It's inseparable from sleep, inseparable from waking, inseparable from birth, inseparable from life, inseparable from death. In this way, we go beyond all these things we've taken ourselves to be. If we get lost in a state, then we get lost in a state. We might feel better, but it doesn't mean we've arrived anywhere. We're just lost in a state. So you see, wisdom, because it isn't tied to anything conventional, it doesn't have any conventional beliefs, so to say, about things. It can do anything. It can move anywhere. It can be effortless and very, very fruitful in its benefit. If we're sitting around and we get lost in a state, say we've been meditating for 10 years or even 5 years or 5 minutes, and we get lost in a state, and then we can stay there, a non-conceptual state or a state of no self or a state of bliss or a state of clarity, then we will have arrived somewhere. We will have arrived in a state. And we can stay in that state if we want to. We have self-choice. So people have disciplined themselves to stay in all kinds of states. And India is a wonderful display of that, right? But if we know that that state is due to awareness, then we pass beyond awareness. We pass beyond being state bound. And beyond being state bound is the clear light of wisdom that requires no state. It doesn't adopt any extremes ever, and it's of tremendous benefit. If we stay in a state, people don't get fed, and they don't get clean water, and they don't get waste management, and they don't get the end of war and these other things that we so desperately need as human beings. It's easy to get lost in a state, but a state it's just more Maya. It's more Mara. It's more illusion. It's just another mirage, another dream. It may feel better, but and it may be of benefit to us personally, and we may even be able to convince ourselves that it's of benefit to everybody. But, how much benefit could it be to everybody when 85% of the world's people don't have enough food to eat? So beyond all these states is wisdom. And it's rip-roaring wisdom. Do you know what that means? It doesn't have any ties or boundaries, and it'll say anything. The essence of everything, awareness, is inseparable from everything. So it isn't about getting quiet or even having a quiet mind. It's about awareness that pervades everything. It pervades quiet, it pervades chaos, it pervades up, it pervades down, it pervades time, it pervades space. And in that is the release of a tremendous amount of energy for benefit. It's very easy for us when we've been accustomed to the habit of dualistic thinking to say, I have to get still, I have to get quiet, or whatever it is. But awareness is that which it doesn't adopt any extremes. It doesn't adopt the extreme of quiet or the extreme of noisy or the extreme of anything. It just is whatever it is. It's absolutely inseparable from all appearances, and that is what true freedom is. The true freedom is that all appearances, no matter what they are timelessly free. What people are doing in the world, I see what everyone is doing, and I boil it down to this simple thing. We have a choice. Every single person can elect to make the most important choice there is to make in each thought, emotion, and experience. I just call it all point of view, all the points of view that appear within all-encompassing awareness, and that is to rest as awareness no matter what appears. And what I see in traveling the world is that some people are ready to do that, and they do that, and they do it definitively. Other people kind of think about it for a while, and then they start to rest as awareness. Some people just think about resting as awareness, and other people don't want to have anything to do with it. Some people want to get into the state of awareness and just stay in a state, but self-awareness is nothing to hold on to. And anyone who really rests as awareness in the immediacy of all perceptions or points of view, they arrive at that. They arrive at that there's no holding on to awareness. Awareness is inseparable from the firepower of wisdom. It's a fire. It's a fire that it burns like a wildfire through all conventional designations. There isn't a conventional designation that can stand in its fire, no matter what it is. All the dreamt up things about our emotions, our thoughts, and how powerful they are, they're just all burned to nothing. Anyone who ever wants to do something about their emotional states, what they really want to do is feel better. That's what the goal is, just to feel better. And so why not do that which is permanent. Permanent. All emotional states completely resolve in awareness. And in that, there's the knowledge of what to do about everything. So why depend on emotional states to inform who we are? Why depend on thoughts? Why not depend on wisdom? I've seen so many people completely relieved to give up psychology by resting in awareness. Whether it's, looking at their own psychology and trying to figure out everything about it, or even being psychologists. Why don't we talk about me? I have 3 kids and 8 grandchildren and a husband. So let's talk about a real person. All right. And the advice is exactly the same: to rest imperturbably, to rest repeatedly again and again, with whatever the circumstantial points of view are of one's life. Whatever it is you're living as and doing, that's a perfect circumstance. And what once seemed like a nightmare, or, it really seemed like a nightmare, but you'd try to make it into a happy situation by thinking about it. It'll just become a source of tremendous well-being, no matter what they're doing. Because have you noticed that even though you're resting as awareness, all your family members may not choose to do that? But does that mean you need to get different family members or leave those family members? No, it doesn't. It means you have a very rich ground for resting as awareness and fulfilling your commitment that you've made to that person. So, I know this in my own family. I'm also one of 6 children. So you see, I've never been able to get rid of all these people. And I see that some of them want to rest as awareness and others don't. But that's just the way it is. That's the way the world is. Some people are ready and others aren't. And the ones who are ready can be of tremendous benefit to themselves and the planet we live on. It's just a choice. It's not necessary to say that anyone's wrong or that even anyone's right. People are just exercising free choice, whatever they choose to be doing, whatever that is. Even all the people all over India, Tibet, and everywhere else who are sitting around in some kind of state are showing us something. They're showing us that that state is possible. They're showing that they've gone beyond some of the states to that state. That in itself is very powerful. But here, the great freedom is about that which is beyond all states. So you see, whoever is ready to really live as wisdom awareness, they show up here. And they want to do that. It just says they're ready. It isn't based on anything else. We could say all kinds of other things about it, but why complicate it? One of the things that has been totally amazing to me in my own life is to see that, when I was a young person, before I began resting imperturbably, I did want to be of benefit. And I actively sought to be of benefit and to be a good person. I was raised as a Catholic, and so doing good works was part of being a Catholic. And we have something called the corporal works of mercy that are different works of mercy one can engage in. So I did all these things and tried to be of benefit and tried to live according to good versus evil, like we all want to do. But when I began resting imperturbably, I found out something incredible. I found out that I didn't have to contrive compassionate action, but it's already naturally present. And that when I had tried to contrive compassionate action, I never felt like I could do enough. And I never felt like I was doing the right thing. And I always felt an overwhelming sadness about everything there was yet to do. But when I rested as awareness, I found that I was completely filled with a warmth of compassion that was tireless, completely tireless. For me, in everything I was doing, my work, with my family, everything, I just had more and more energy for everything. And so, it's just like today, I'm in my late 50s, so I'm at an age when many people are retiring or, going to live in some other kind of circumstance where they can kind of relax their tired bones and brains. And what am I doing? I'm tirelessly going all over the world, here, there, and everywhere. And, sometimes I sleep an hour, but it doesn't matter to me. I'm wide awake, whether I'm asleep or awake. So it just doesn't matter. So you see, I know through firsthand experience that there is this release of tremendous energy for benefit. And the Great Freedom Teaching came out of that. But then I also have gotten to see in the last 25 years, many people I have met who have felt like they're not able, or they can't quite be of benefit, or they can't even get their own act together. They can't even get their own thoughts and emotions calmed down. So I've seen people who feel powerless and helpless to one degree or another, or people who have thought about their true nature a lot. And I see all of these people come into this wisdom power of great benefit, where people who have thought they couldn't really be of benefit, who become to be people who are of tremendous benefit, or even people who have been of benefit who are even of greater benefit. So you see, who we are is completely uncontained, but it's up to each of us to know that about ourselves. If you want to know that about yourself in an easy way, in a carefree way, you're in the right place. Remember